My name is Rebeccah Cope. I'm now the program director of two parks, which is Historic Yates Mill County Park and Crowder District Park. So our park does have a very diverse set of offerings, and I would say that that's probably mainly because of the partnership effort and because of the interest in the community in the site. Our partnership, again, with Yates Mill Associates and NC State University results in a number of different interests being around for this site, everything from the research and education aspects to really advancing the cause of the historic site and making sure that folks know about it and as well as maybe want to continue to support it. We're still looking for donors and doing fundraising and things along those lines. So the interests from the agricultural aspects with NC State to the historical aspects with Yates Mill Associates and then the environmental aspects, especially with Wake County Parks, you bring all those together and it really tells a very broad story. Certainly the mill itself has 4 roads, for instance, radiating from the mill. Well, the stories about the mill can radiate in the same way. There's so many different ways that you can tell the story and how you can go off on what it is that you're talking about. You know, there's so many different angles that you can really share. So I'd say that's probably one of the main things. The fact that we do have funding from more than one source, and certainly if it's not money, it's resources such as staffing or experts that can really help us to better understand how we should tell a story or how we should manage the site. So that partnership is critical, certainly, in terms of helping us to really be able to reach a broad audience and to tell a variety of different stories. Some of the cultural and environmental events that we have out here at Yates Mill would include a lot of different seasonal activities. We have special events. Some of the most popular, for instance, would be our February Mill is Muse art and photography contests. This past year we actually had about 68 entries in the photography area, and I think we had about 12 art entries. Wonderful thing to come and see. We actually keep these pictures on display in the center. So it helps us to sort of see how our visitors are experiencing the park, the things that they think are beautiful and worthy of taking a picture of. So we really like being able to sort of show the community what they themselves have thought were important out in the park. So we do that at a time of the year when there's not much color in the world, and we encourage them to come and celebrate, you know, the pictures that have been taken of what was in the park. In addition to that, another popular one would be our May Community Picnic event, which is also our park anniversary. We just had the 4th. And that's a nice activity. We have field games, and there's actually usually NC State ice cream, which is made from the milk contributed by the cows that are right across the street from where the park is. So we make a nice local connection in that way. Fun activity, come on out, you know, be with your family, hear some stories, listen to some old-time music. So really getting people to come out, enjoy each other's company, but also to have a good time. And you can win a little prize ribbon for having, say, beat someone at tug of war or doing the hoop and stick race, sack race, things like that. Probably our biggest event of the year is the fall harvest event. We call it From Field to Food, a harvest celebration, and that brings in probably about 1,200 people a year, which is about as much as our particular park can handle. And that event has a cornmeal cook-off contest, there's corn shucking, corn cob toss game, so everything corny, real corny. Even a corn cob photo stand-in where you can put your face through it and take your picture and you look like one of the kernels of the cob. We think being goofy is actually a good thing out here, and so, you know, come out and have some fun with us. And so it has more of an agricultural emphasis for that particular event, and we actually even bring in the Native American focus with the early hand mills, where corn comes from, how far it's spread across the world, what it's used for. You can be a corn detective. So, you know, we've tried to really bring in the seasonal aspect to what we're doing with our events. That's true also for our programs. We try to design them year-round to really have a seasonal aspect, but we also do programs specifically focused on history. We've got a colonial history series. We've got an arts and handcraft series that really talks about old things, homespuns, things like how to sew, how to knit, how to weave. So really bringing back the crafts and using your hands, which we think is important from a trying to preserve these skills perspective. You know, we want those things to be preserved in our community. So arts and handcrafts. Natural explorations, come on out and hike with us. Have an afternoon outing with the naturalist, maybe get on a canoe, go across the pond, see what kind of critters you can find. Maybe we'll do the pond study. So environmental aspects as well. And then the agricultural, which comes in with gardening programs and talking about the crops and where our food is coming from. Certainly one of the most important type of programs that we do out here are our heritage tours and our corn grinding demonstrations at historic Yates Mill. We know that folks want to get in and see what's inside the mill, and we want them to be able to do that because it certainly is an important story in terms of where your food is coming from, but also we feel like there's a lot of really important messages. For instance, Yates Mill was run off water power, so it used a renewable source of energy at a fairly sustainable level because these mills were scattered throughout the countryside, but it also was the launching point for the early industry. The mill itself was your early factory. So we feel like there's a lot of things that you can compare and contrast and a lot of things that you can talk about related to the story of the mill. On the third weekend of each month from March to November, we actually do grind corn in the mill, run a lot of the machinery, and we do that with costumed interpreters. So we actually decided that we would use costumes, historic clothing. It's 19th century clothing in this case. It sort of matches the heyday of the mill. And we use them in the third person. That means we're not pretending like we're people from that time. We're actually talking about them as a prop. We use our costumes as another way to tell the story. You know, I'm dressed like the farmer's wife might have been, and she might have been shelling her corn, getting it off the cob before she actually brought it to the mill to be ground into meal that you could then make into bread for the family. So the mill tours are certainly an important aspect, and our volunteers are critical for that. They're running the programs for us. All of the funding, all of the revenue that comes from the programs in the mill actually goes directly back to our nonprofit group and supports the mill's ongoing maintenance and operations. So we have some unique arrangements in that way. The partnership effort is certainly an important aspect out here, and so we want to make sure that the nonprofit has funding available on the long term to be able to keep supporting the mill, and so that's why that revenue goes back to them.